Grüezi and welcome.
Hi, I'm Yves. In this video I'm going to walk you through how I created the intro you just saw. Apart from my channel introduction, this is the first time I've ever attempted to create a video, so please be gentle. I really hope you can forgive the bits that might not be 100% professional and that you still enjoy the content. Let's start with the actual content. First of all, I needed an idea of how I wanted to design my profile picture and thus the representative channel logo. It had to meet the following criteria. The logo must be visually appealing. Recognizability would be advantageous, of course. Since I am not a professional artist and was somewhat out of practice at the time of creating this logo, it had to be a motif that I could draw easily. YouTube guidelines must be followed. The image should reflect the content of my channel. The logo should still be presentable in 5 or 10 years. And most importantly, of course, I have to like the logo. I let various possibilities swirl around in my mostly empty head and finally ended up with a banana. Don't ask me why. My thought processes are often a mystery even to me. Anyway, I wasn't entirely convinced by this idea, and one day, as I was enjoying my vacation at home, another idea popped into my head. I'll use an apple. I don't know why I thought of an apple, but I liked the idea so much that I immediately texted my wife to ask her to pick up some nice apples after work. I'll translate the whole thing into English for you. Of course, everything here is true. Can you get me 2-3 apples if you are still shopping? But beautiful. Have a plan for my YouTube project.
I'll see if I can find some.
Thanks.
You are so hot.
I know. With the basic idea for the channel avatar in mind, I now had to think about how I wanted to design the intro. I immediately saw a stop-motion film of a rolling apple appear in my mind's eye, so I put the idea down on paper as a short script. I briefly considered whether I should use a real apple or one of the wooden apple replicas from our kitchen. And no, we don't eat wooden apples, of course. It's a decorative item made in England. I'm not going to show it to you now. Its beauty would only compete with my channel. Originally, I wanted to create the stop motion with paper faces. That meant drawing 2 eyes and a mouth on paper for each emotion, cutting them out and sticking them onto the apple. So I started trying out different styles for the faces. As I had never really tried my hand at comic drawings before, I searched the internet for some suggestions and copied them, or rather, I used them as inspiration. During this process, I realized that I could make my life easier, and probably more professional, by drawing the emotions directly on the tablet. This method of representation also saved me a lot of time and nerves. And time. A lot of time, really. So I decided to create the film and then take care of the face design afterwards. In order to position the brush and scalpel properly under the apple, I had to lift it slightly. After my wife brought home the apples I wanted, I set about constructing the apple elevation using one of the less attractive apples. For this, I used an XPS board which I cut into 2 suitable pieces. To ensure that the apple could stand upright, I needed at least 2 toothpicks. I rammed these into the XPS foundations and then into the test apple in a highly professional manner. It was important to note the size of the foam foundations. These should not be visible when viewed from above by the camera. After completing the acupuncture of the apple, I tested it with the 2 desired utensils and, imagine that, it actually worked. Next came the most important step in production, filming the stop-motion images. To make my life easier and to have the basis for this explanatory video right away, I decided to film the whole thing and then cut individual still images from the video. My intro is therefore not a stop-motion film in the traditional sense. I really hope my lovely viewers will forgive me. So the first thing I did was set up the backdrop, my almost new cutting board with various crafting and painting supplies. Once everything was in place, I threw a few spoonfuls of coke, flour, of course, into the corner and garnished it with various spices. This flower corner brightens up the picture a bit. I'm also toying with the idea of creating a video or two related to cooking or baking. That way I would have already incorporated this reference into the intro. Then I tested rolling with the most beautiful of all apples, from the center of the mat to the outside. I wanted a blurred effect of speed, and that was the easiest way. So while you see an apple rolling in during the intro, it was actually moving away from the platform. Nothing is as it seems. Once the final attempt was good enough, I moved on to the actual stop-motion part. Turn the apple slightly, move the brush and scalpel a little bit away, and pause. Then repeat the same thing until the most dangerous spider of all time confronted me with its unexpected visit. We live in the middle of a forest, and even in the depths of winter there are spiders scurrying through our living room. And naked too. They really have no shame. As usual, I wanted to catch the spider with a cup and cardboard, but it preferred to hide under the paint palette. Since I didn't want to move it for obvious reasons, I left it there for the time being. In the meantime, the attentive viewer will have noticed that the spider was completely pixelated. At this point, I could claim that I did this deliberately for all viewers who suffer from arachnophobia. But the truth is that I accidentally recorded the entire video in poor quality. This mistake will probably creep in again, so don't forget, this is a very, very professional channel. After the uninvited guest had hidden itself, I continued with the steps I mentioned earlier, until the spider came out to get some fresh air again. As you can see, I didn't manage to capture them this time either, so back to my actual work. Eventually I reached the apple with the scalpel and brush and had to lift it up. To keep it in the same position, I marked the apple at the bottom with a piece of XPS and at the top with a nicely shaped kneaded eraser. If you like drawing with a chisel pencil and are not yet familiar with this type of eraser, you should definitely get one. It will change your life. After the apple was lifted into the correct position, I continued with the previous steps. And as we all know, all good things come in threes, at least in German-speaking countries. Consequently, I was finally able to catch the cheeky spider on its third exploratory tour and return it to nature, and at the same time demonstrate that I have no control over the camera focus whatsoever. You're welcome, all you arachnophobes. And with that, I was done filming. Yep, highly professional. Of course, I enjoyed eating the apple afterwards. I became one with my YouTube channel, so to speak. Next, I loaded the footage onto my MacBook and created still images using screenshots. Then I numbered all the images and the first part of the stop-motion production was complete. Here you can see the raw material for this work. I loaded these images onto my iPad and edited them there using the drawing app Procreate. I started with the last image that served as the basis for my profile picture. That's because the first thing I had to do was create my profile picture. To do this, I used different layers to record the various possibilities for eyes and mouths. Then, together with my wife, I chose the best combination and finished creating the avatar. Knowing how I wanted to depict the face, I was now able to draw all the pictures as desired. I took great care to make the product names of the utensils used unrecognizable. I also had to make my hand disappear in some of the pictures. To do this, I cut out and copied the previous image in the area in question and placed it over my hand. When copying and pasting the elements to be used, such as the eyes or the covering of the product names, I unfortunately noticed that the colors were gradually becoming distorted. I have no idea why, and it was extremely annoying. Unfortunately, this problem ended up costing me additional time. With the stop-motion images drawn, it was now time to convert them into a fluid video format. A small warning to all those who use editing programs professionally: the following recordings may hurt to watch. My wife had already had to create videos for her work and therefore recommended the free program DaVinci Resolve to me. I tried my hand at editing and, despite some trial and error, I achieved the desired result relatively quickly. I added a nice effect at the beginning and end, and the rough cut of the video was ready. Later, I would enlarge the text a little, but there's no need to go into that step here. I now had the video recording, but what does a successful intro need besides good images? Of course, appropriate sound recordings that match the content. I love music, but I'm not a musician. As a child, I had flute lessons, and I hated it. I'd rather go out and play than sit through an extra lesson at school and have to practice at home. Several years ago, I bought a guitar with the aim of learning to play it. Being the smart person that I am, I started this project a few weeks before I began my studies. And lo and behold, as soon as I started studying, I no longer had time to learn the guitar on the side. In addition to my failed guitar career, I also failed my studies. But that's a story for another video, if ever. You may be wondering, but Eve, why do you have a music award-worthy intro guitar piece if you can't play music yourself, let alone compose? The answer to the riddle is GarageBand by Apple. After countless bad, terrible and mediocre attempts, I finally succeeded in creating the stroke of genius that can now be heard at the beginning of all my videos. Trial and error, it's that simple. Here are a few gems from the various audio recordings. Listen at your own risk. After recording the masterpiece, all I had to do was insert it and trim it to the right length. After that, I still needed the voiceover. Originally, I wanted to generate it with an AI voice. This was because of my Swiss accent and because I am one of those people who don't like to hear their own voice at all. The fact that I am a rather introverted person doesn't help either, of course. However, my wife finally convinced me that I don't sound as bad as I think I do. If you've watched and, above all, listened to this far, you'll probably agree with her. Or maybe you're a masochist. Anyway, I recorded my voice using my iPhone and the pre-installed Voice Memos app, and then inserted it as an audio file. And with that, my intro was finished. Thank you for watching my first proper video. I hope you're enjoying my content so far. It would mean the world to me if you could like and subscribe.
Grüezi and welcome. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Tschüss.